We're going into game number one. Let's drop in with this first one.
Map 1, round 1, Cleveland Storm versus Vimy Valkyries. Two squads coming out here, and already we are seeing some interesting pickups here. You talked about Cleveland Storm, we talked about some of the heroes that we like to see or sometimes don't like to see. We're seeing a little bit of optimization. There we go. There's a swap that I was curious about in Cleveland Storm. Novicius actually off with the Mercy, going with a little bit more turn and burn. So we go ahead and get the first tango here. Quick boost in. Silent Storm tries to get the boost, but it's not going to work. You delay Vimy Valkyries a little bit of a time, but Ty with a great snipe with Icicle #1, but Octarine goes down. So it is going to be a piece #1. Cleveland Storm losing one. Valkyries losing quite a few more. Cleveland Storm starting things off with a strong punch to the gut. Vimy Valkyries unfortunately loses first battle. It will be first grab by Cleveland Storm.
Losing your tank as your first drop is pretty much the most detrimental thing for an early team fight. And just like what we were talking about earlier, I got to see a lot of Reinhardt onto Octarine, but it was actually the Orisa that they bring out early first. So that's a lot more skirmishing, and it's kind of tough to deal with Ramatra, especially in counter take play. And bringing the Moira on Novicius is that was one. I think there's one of their or rather their. It's not tertiary. I don't think there's a word for quadritiary. I don't know. It was tied in there with their Ana for the amount of time played. So I'm not at all surprised, especially considering they're playing kind of around a big, burly, bullying Ramatra to be able to bring that in. And I mean, the way that early first zone is also kind of built for this control, it feels like it's very kind of easy to basically get a lot of AoE damage with them.
Yeah, and we would hope so. Again, when it comes down to Lijiang Tower, there's a reason why on both ends it tends to be picked up a lot by teams. You know, I mentioned the space station before, and that's a whole different story, but Lijiang Tower leaves some of the most neutral ground available. When you take a look, I mean, it's very open out of the gate, right? In the pagoda side, or not pagoda, you can see the tower side. It is very comfortable. Open air, you can go ahead, fly above. There's also two different entryways in, so it makes sense. It's a very, very comfortable stance. Here comes the problem, though. With that open stance means that there's so many different there's a vast amount of variety in terms of how you can attack. But the main focus quite literally crashed right there in the middle ground, and as you called, a lot of damage went down. And the focus fire, I have to give credit for. I think that was a neutral pick by the side of the Valkyries. They found a random strike, and I think it was on the support behind, but you saw the free fire. As soon as that pick came through, it was Cleveland Storm that said, hey, we are going to focus on that tank. You aren't going to have any freedom, and you're kind of locked in there. So right now, we're already seeing Cleveland Storm appropriately tackle these fights where a lot of DPS is being pumped out, and at that point, it's all about the refinement of the DPS, not just how much DPS you can put into the enemy team.
Now, what do you think about that in kind of almost a counter to, maybe not straight off the rip on the pick, but they had May that was brought out. I don't think that you and I had really kind of discussed a lot of that. A lot of kind of long-standing HP regain that's there, especially being able to kind of wall up, shut them out, shut down. You basically, you have two considerable choke points if you kind of ignore window as an entry for much of this, because you have to go across to that bridge side, or you have to be able to kind of just run straight into a meeting of the minds in the middle. So if you can cut straight down from that bridge and not allow them to either leap over, then you kind of re-segment the entirety of that first control. So it feels like that, but the May also kind of got caught, didn't really get to go and fight really many from the Storm. So it's like, all right, well, now I'm here and I've queued up. I pray that everyone else gets the job done, and that's exactly when their Orisa fell. So do you think they stick with that early pick, or maybe kind of, peeking behind the curtain of the Storm? Do they go something that gets a little bit more firepower versus kind of disruption?
I think, okay, so I don't want to say I dislike the May, because in certain situations the May is good. I would have said if you got the first turn and then you get dropped pretty quickly, if you have point, then you can stay on point with the May. That is where you're most comfortable. In the opening fire, though, I gotta agree. The May was not exactly the pure answer, and May with the HP value is quite low, as you called. Once you ice cube up, you don't really have much more to put down. It's actually very difficult for the rest of your team to kind of filter in it, and if that's the opening turn, it doesn't feel great. So I actually really do appreciate you calling that out. I think with the Sojourn, a Tracer would have been a little bit better, would have been a little bit more comfortable. So, you know, maybe they go back to the drawing board. At the current moment, though, we will go to a very, very short break. We are going to take a look at things, as I believe there was a technical delay or a little bit of a pause in there. So we'll see how it's going to be done, and hopefully we have some answers for you. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And of course, we're right back into it as we get the turn. We have reset the clock a little bit, but you know it's going to be action all the way through. This time, Cleveland Storm a little bit slower to get onto the mark, but Vimy Valkyrie is trying their best to hang on as much as possible, but they lose their tank once again. Cool Dude saying, we'll do it once, we'll do it twice, we'll probably do it again. Down goes Killatech, as that is going to be a rough start. Zeke in the top ropes with a 3K of their own. The maze still out front for Ty, which will melt in front of the DPS. Cleveland Storm with capture number 1.
Yeah, it just took a little bit extra of time. The biggest thing that we had to switch around, making sure that the HP bar was the right settings. So we go up to full. Now, as Octane will be sticking onto that Orisa, we do have the slightest switch up as they did get the proper player into the lobby. So the Tron 2000 will be here onto the Ramatra instead, sticking with the same comp generally, except for Novicius, who is over on to that Baptiste. So changing away from having to deal with kind of all those Moira antics, but now you are having to deal with Valkyries as Vimy dealing with basically being locked into the hut and can't really move forward.
No, and Cannoneer almost gets taken out, able to get behind the wall, but that's going to be the force in. And Tron 2000 goes, let's go hunting. Mystery Turkey goes skeet shooting, and Novicius follows right through. We ask if Cleveland Storm are ready for the battle, and they say no sweat at all. We're already booking it 100 miles an hour.
Zek 3 just decided the rest of the team was done. They were done. Afara, that kind of just sets themselves apart. They want to make sure they don't stagger out from that full fall. So it makes a lot of sense as they kind of go out. But 70% already. That's one big team fight. And Novicius is dangerous as they take out the diff onto Killatech. And that is a big pick to be able to get off of a first support.
I mean, you stop that first support. You stop the momentum push, and it forces Vimy Valkyries right back. Right now, Cleveland Storm are just about 15% away, and it has to be a force from Vimy Valkyries. You can see Kinnear trying to swap to the Soldier 76, just trying to get that raw DPS, but what a piece of the pie. What a hold into the missile barrage. It is Zeke right behind the Tron. The Wombo does massive work, and it's annihilation of the Valkyries as Cleveland Storm 100-0 round 1.
Goodness gracious. All right, you said that this would be a measuring point for us to really decide how the rest of the series was going to go. This team in particular has dropped one map across 2 semesters, and they're showcasing exactly why. Zeke went down earlier just for memes, and then they came back and decided that they were going to use the full barrage to really just make a statement piece out of that final fight. 3 team fights, Orbital. That's all it took for that one to get locked in. Octane is thinking of different ideas. Roadhog Reaper question marks? Interesting ideas coming onto the second part of Control.
I think at this point, you just go with comfort level, which is why Ty is right back on to that maze. See Cannoneer going ahead, swapping over to that Symmetra, just trying to get that TP down for the rest of the team. Zeke does the same. And now with the opening salvo, Mystery Turkey trying to bring up that percentage, already up at about 6, so you can see him climbing so quickly. Cool Dude, though, helps out take out Octane, and yet again, it is just annihilation. I talked about it, and no, this is not a mistake. That is not an error in the match. Cleveland Storm are that dialed in on the enemy tank.
I mean, Shark was trying to overextend just a little bit, get that extra wall to go up towards that that entry pathway for the Storm, but that kind of gave them too much of a target to have to deal with. And as both they and Octane fell, it was just now just going easy hunting. And so you get some of this harassment that's happening off of this Juno for Cool Dude. They see Zeke is kind of under fire. They're aiming to support them as best as they can, aiming for maybe just kind of a big burst onto the scene from out of the Valkyries. But this next team fight really has to hit.
I mean, they're going to try to. Tron actually zoned out a little bit. The May wall was able to section him up, but the Tron turns it right around Cannoneer, punched out of existence, and you can see the Tron right into the mix, full body motion. And with the rest of the team now into the mix, Cleveland Storm wash away the pain of losing Zeke and are going to bully the rest of Vimy Valkyries completely out. Ty, Shark, and Octane melt in front of Mystery Turkey, and Tron Killatech bounce right back to their spawn. And Cleveland Storm passing through like a typhoon, take control in the second team fight.
Hot knife meat butter, man. Oh my goodness. Yep. It might as well be margarine. It might as well be ice cream on a summer day. It is just being thrashed about. Now, Novicius does go down. Octane is at least able to get them from distance, so that's a great place to be able to pivot from. They have to make use of this moment, but considering what the Tron has with an Annihilation form ready to go, they have been zoning away the Valkyries, making it so difficult from going to end as they go from out of spawn and trying to traverse around this, and you just hit non-stop damage. They do get a great rip, and they're trying to get taking him down. Eventually, Octane is able to find one, but the barrage comes out again.
Barrage plus overclock means massive damage for the DPS. And Cleveland Storm do it once again. The Vimy Primal Valkyries are left kind of wondering what just went wrong. And we talked about the fact that they are at the top here. They're the 7th seed making their way in, but they are up against the 1st seed, the pinnacle, the absolute top of the top. Octane, though, trying to shove them out of the spawn and might have made it work, but Zeke once again shuts them right down. Yet another 2 snap. All cats able to find 1 in return, but unfortunately this punch out by Tron, making sure this is difficult. Valkyries were able to get the turn, though. They are able to turn that point over. But now to fight right back, Cleveland Storm trying to hang on now and turn it over to their own. They only need 8% more. It looks like they're going to do so. No Vicious finding one before falling, but Ty Shark is now into the mix. Wall goes up. The ice is there, but time is running out. Cleveland Storm drop lightning, thunder, wind, and rain to make sure this game is in their favor. Zeke once again in the mix with another 2 to their name. OT wears out, and it's Cleveland Storm all day with map 1.
And banger lines like that. Do you work with Earth, Wind, and Fire? I thought they were retired, man. My goodness. Okay. Well, good looks there by the Storm from out of VSU Cleveland High as they come through and they make a stamp onto this first bit of Lijiang and on control. They never really surrendered it except for a single time. You got to see Octane that at least got in for a couple of different moments, but that was when everything basically was segmented and basically put on display for this squad out of Cleveland High to just do what they wanted to. Job well done, and continues to prove that I just cannot deal with Ramatras. No one can. There's just something too menacing about them. It's unfair at times, you know?
It's good ones, really, is what you're looking out for. And the amount of space that you're able to take, the Tron 2000, making sure that they're almost like 5,000 years in front, they were heavily well targeted, but at the same time, they were well covered. Huge shout out to the entirety of the team for this Cleveland Storm squad, because the number of times Zeke was allowed to free fire like that, I haven't seen the kill feed move that quickly in favor of a DPS in quite some time, and that is due to the fact that you are given a lot of cover. A lot of the attention is drawn away, so Zeke is able to fly around. Zeke is able to do whatever they wish and continue to control the pace of those fights. I mean, the number of times that we just saw missiles raining down for free has to be stopped at some point.
Yeah, you had, look, that was the most affluent Pharah that I've seen in a hot minute.
Yes.
Pharah's used to be kind of just like ruled the skies. You didn't even have to have the pharmacy to have it happen either. They just were consistently kind of short hopping around and seeing who would eventually take them. But they popped up whenever the big fights were happening. They're like, cool, there's a barrage about to be flying at you. There is a reason that one of my favorite Gundams is Heavy Arms. Let the missiles go. Let them happen. Yep. And that's exactly what Zeke was doing. So we're going to be switching over to hybrid. We're gonna figure out what that map is about to be, and you know, I mean, I've seen a lot of typicality when it comes to what we do King's Row, and I don't think that there's gonna be right now a reliance on kind of at least high power pick like Widowmakers. They're basically just getting good communication and getting off the board whomever is in their way.
Yeah, I'm really taking a look here. I think we have gotten word it's going to be Eichenwald, so a little bit more open space to work with, maybe not as tight corridored. There is a flux, I believe, going into one of the castle entrances where it is a little bit tight and narrow, but most of the outside, I believe, in the opening control as well as in some of the checkpoints, it's fairly open, so you can do a lot of work here. I'm very, very curious. It's not as vertical and it's not as messy as it could be like on King's Row, where it's buildings pretty much everywhere, you know, kind of locking you in. But I like it. Cleveland also will be on that attacking side first, so they're going to be looking for the push, and then afterwards, it will be up to the side of Vimy Primal Valkyries to try and take their own turn and attack, as well as on this defensive end, shutting down Cleveland Storm.
I mean, Eichenwald is built for back cap central. If you already had the Pharah, you're about to see them sprint back to that first zone to unlock that cart. This is going to be, all right, Do we sit one DPS back to try and deal with them? Do we get our hit scan to kind of chill on site, ready for them to try and unlock it? Or do you kind of play that middle standard funnel game right in front of bridge? I feel like they're going to go for that hot sprint to start, because right now the Storm kind of feel unchallenged. They want to go and make the things, at least that first minute of play, seeing what they can get away with, maybe even the first couple of minutes, and then if it kind of slows down, then you have a chance. But I mean, I truly expect that maybe even a teleporter, everyone getting bounced over that big first house in that first corner. Look, there's about to be like 5 heroes flying over a house somewhere. It's gonna be wild.
Yeah, that has been the play. I mean, we've seen Symmetra's get really messy with it, and I love it.
Yeah.
But one of the things I do want to see changed out is the Mei. Mei excels in tight corridors and spaces where that wall can basically fully divide a fight. I don't see it. I really don't see the Mei having a comfortable position. Now, maybe later on you can swap out to it, but I really do hope Tai is able to respect the open space and not use that Mei off rip, at least. Now, granted, you are on the defensive end, so you can use it in a defensive manner, which may be a little bit better. But at least on the attack, I do hope to see a couple swaps out. Maybe you could swap to the Soldier 76. We saw it in the previous before, but it wasn't on Tai. Keep that in mind. So, for the Vimy Primal Valkyries, we'll see if they do change things up. Again, the last few fights didn't really go their way. The Roadhog looked kind of fun, but they got to find a little bit more action in there if they want to try and hold down the line in the opening.
I mean, this is also where I sit on Orisa. I mean, old school, new school. They're very strong under that initial bridge, and they can actually respond very well, especially to a lot of far pressure. But they also kind of get caught on 2 separate walls. And if you have all that, if you have a distraction going one way, that can't be taken care of, and then you have a full bundle of the remaining 4 players that are going to come at you through that choke point, and you have to receive all of it, it's kind of Dunskies. So we'll see how that one eventually happens. Will the Ramatra be still the play that is held by the Storm? I also want, if you don't feel great on Mei, but you still want to be kind of, not cheesy, but have to be disruptive and kind of at least quirky with the way you want to play it. I mean, drop in a Torbjorn, literally. Literally, just put the turret up on that top balcony and then just get to building. You can cut off that choke point very well. I subscribe to my Swedish little dwarf. Okay, let's see if that happens for them. But I also might want to see a 76 switch out. Their Sojourn is probably going to be picked up. I don't know what this mess is going to be, but Novicius is already on the Zenny. All right, I saw that in their report, so I didn't know that would come up this soon, but here it is. Unless it doesn't. I don't know.
At this point, we're just talking because we're going to wait and see exactly which heroes are locked in here. But we do see double Rhine, which only makes sense here. You kind of have to give respect to the OG master of the shield. You got to go ahead, bring that shield down, and go ahead and bring the pain just as well. Out the gate they go. And it looks like we do have a little bit of a role swap as well. Sif now onto that Rhine, and I just saw the name. I was double checking that to make sure my eyes are good. There's a TP though, and immediately on the site, you talked about that piece, and it's a quick snipe to Eclipse his back. Octane is able to answer back, at least in some form of way. However, the damage is turning a different route. Novicius keeping everyone a little bit alive, and Eclipse is able to respawn in, but Kilotech bringing the pain just as well. Novicius finds Sith though, and once again, the primed engagement, the focus on the tank brings easy first pick for Cleveland Storm.
Look, man, it's a speed run, all right? Summer Games done quick would be able to get you at least $1,000 on how quickly that one was done. The Tron, anyone that's got a golden hammer on a Reinhardt is a pretty cool person in my book. So they make swift work out of it. Fantastic support out of Novicius, going off on their second most played hero onto that Ana, just behind their Kiriko. So good looks overall by the Storm. They make fast work of it, and that means that this is a long tie to have to deal with if you are the Valkyries. 5.5 minutes and more, and we're getting some bullying, or at least an attempt to try and track things down. Eclipse aims to escape on the Shadow Step.
Yeah, because Octane got annihilated with the first quarter. That was the Cleveland Storm making sure to check the skies. Tron with a slam and a half, pins one against the wall, denies Sif in all caps. And Cleveland Storm, they're saying, we know we're here in the grand finals, but we are looking further. We are looking much farther into the future. We are saying we want our crown and then some. The Play versus Cup is our next step.
Oh, that's an upward scale as well. They put their tracer up there just to see if anyone would try to go high ground. Octane did switch over away from that tank, and now you're having to deal with some of the extra.
Oh, do it!
Oh, they bring them down. So we get a few big swipes. They take the first. They will not pick up the second. That's a lot of extra damage already done.
Yeah, but that was more of a statement piece, right? The Tron knew that they were going down pretty much. They're alone. That is one of the most ego moves ever, but for good reason. When you have the ego, but can back up the ego as well, it makes me so happy. So really, really well played. And not just that, you burn a piece off the end, and now your team has 3 ultimates to work with. You got Zeke, you got Mystery Turkey, you got No Vicious. These are all great kind of empowering and amplifying pieces. So Zeke getting pinned a little bit. Took a lot more damage than they probably would have liked, but the rest of the team is now here. Kind of wait and see, though. This is going to be a test. Sif has one ready to go as well. Mr. Turkey on the backside just trying to be annoying with this Tracer and maybe look for a piece. Where does that Nano Bomb go? Where are they going to get the pinch? Quick TP on the backside, though, as that's all caps spending the ultimate, but that's a pig. Kill Attack goes down. Sif and Eclipse, though, are able to find their marks. Huge turn for the side of Vimy Primal Valkyries as they're starting to push back.
They do have a chance. They have a couple of pocket aces for themselves. They got Mystery Turkey that does have that time bomb, and you got Zeke that was very influential by the barrage, but I feel like all the Valkyries have now recognized that they've got to separate. They cannot get caught off guard, and Zeke is kind of telegraphed where they're kind of playing from. There's not a lot of great hiding spaces, especially from this high ground, so they're trying to sneak away and see if they can catch a timing situation with everyone going towards car. It becomes basically a bumper brawl. It will be a diff onto the Reinhardt's. Tron will take out Sif, and that could open up a pathway to finally get the second checkpoint.
We'll see if they can do so right now. A little bit of a test here. Zeke fires away, and as he called, it was a very nice pick on the backside. Eclipse realizes they're not in a good spot, quickly TPing their way out. Shadow steps back to the rest of the team. Again, that push timing feels really, really bad. You weren't able to get much. Gets healed up by the rest of the team, but this is Cleveland Storm ready to push on in. Octane, though, great shot here. You can't stop the train, and sometimes Tron realizes that. But it is still a push. Right now, checkpoint 1 has been met. No Vicious gonna get some help from Zeke as Zeke once again goes on a rampage and takes them all out from the sky, bouncing around inside other side corridor. Mystery Turkey takes out Octane as they were looking towards the sky. And yet again, it is Cleveland Storm to find their marks and then some.
They're going to have to really stagger out these next ultimates that are coming in. They've had these 4 unlocked for a while. They're going to have the extra one from their Ana in just a second. I cannot see this team not utilizing this because they've got to buy some time. 3.5 minutes is a lot. They're going to have to bust out with the Reinhardt ultimate. I don't think they're going to get a chance to get back to the cart before they're basically bullied away. They're going to be directly onto him, but no! Octane finds one high noon shot onto Zeke, but no one was able to make it back and stop that momentum.
It was so fast we couldn't set up that final push. That's how crazy fast Cleveland Storm are.
Wow.
And we have to give respect to them. At the end of the day, this is a squad that is consistently at the top. We talked about the fact that they've only dropped 1 map in their entire regular season. In the entirety of playoffs, they have been undefeated and nigh untouched. They have a perfect record gleaming into the spring 2025 play versus season, and this is what you'd expect. This is one of those moments that, hey, Monkey Man, we have to respect the first seed, how they got here and what they're throwing down.
I mean, I respect the heck out of them. I just didn't think that the Valkyries were going to kind of basically stay in the apartment with the door locked against them. they were unable to get through entirely. They died with 4 ultimates online. That is unfortunate. What is happening? This are we doing the slow World of Warcraft RP walk? Are we about to have a king show up out of nowhere? Okay. Well, the second one is getting prepared, as we did at least get Valkyries changing things around. Eclipse and the gang, are they gonna try and match tit for tat on that Symmetra opening play?
I'm a little bit scared right now. This is going to be kind of crazy. Right now, though, you can see here, Cleveland Storm just firing extra damage through the very narrow pathway, but a little bit behind the back they go. Vimy Valkyrie's going to try, but Zeke was ready for him. Quick snap onto Eclipse, who doesn't really get much freedom there. And right now, you're just waiting on the top side. No Vicious, ready with that Baptiste, ready to get some healing down, but ready to free fire on the end. And so far, maybe Valkyries are going to try their best, but Zeke finds Octane again. So both Octane and Eclipse have been shattered, and that allows the rest of Cleveland Storm to just walk their way in, denying Valkyries this first push.
This is one of the few pathways. I know that you basically have kind of 3 routes. This one is my least favorite, having to deal with it on Eichenwald, because you obviously have like that immediate choke. You're right underneath that bridge, and you have to deal with kind of that side entryway from the damaged first floor, and then maybe just kind of directly running up into the road, or you try to leap over that building. This one is the longest path and the slowest and the most telegraphed, and the one that gives the most vision. You're gonna get Kill-A-Tech that goes down, and that already spells doomsday for Valkyries as they want to try and get something to move into the second minute.
Well, they've already burned daylight, but as you said, they got to try again, and they can't be looking at that clock. They can't be sitting there knowing that they just lost out on first turn so heavily. It was, what, 5 for Zeke off rip. All of them collected their way, which means this ultimate is almost ready to go. It is going to be a painful reminder if Vimy Valkyries can't find their way around. They're trying to go to the front door, but the front door is also barricaded. Quick swap in, as that's a charge, but unfortunately, you put yourself in harm's way. You quickly get the shield up just in time, so Sif is able to live, but Sif only lives for a little bit longer. Zeke with the high ground, though, finds all cats in the back line. And the rest of the Valkyries are all on low HP, barely getting the healing out. Octrain is going to find Mystery Turkey, though, and that might be the shot that they need. Sif trying to find a way as Kill-A-Tech just hides around this corner. But again, time is burning out as Cleveland Storm still hold the line.
We are trading fire strikes faster than I traded Pokemon cards when I was in 4th grade. There is so much distance fighting between these tanks, and they're hoping that it opens up something. They do cut one down. Well, not really much. That was actually just a shield from the Vicious. And now Zeke just brings the missiles again. Always finding value out of it, and this is going to be continued clean up duty. The Valkyries are running short on time.
It is, and that timing, that clock, the stopwatch is about to close, and I mean, Cleveland Storm, they have to be so happy because for them, this is almost their 9 to 5. They've been in situations in grand finals before, especially in the Play versus Fall 2024. They know what they're up against, and they know what they have to do. Respect to them as once again, Zeke finding a little bit of a line. Quick move out as Octrain is in that high noon and denied the further extraction. No chance for the ultimate to claim value, and Zeke is just running rampant in the back lines. Mystery Turkey, though, this time is our hero as they're able to find 2. Octrain found Zeke. Octrain finds another, and it looks like Vimy at Primal Valkyries might have found their opportunity. Octrain said, screw the ultimate, I'll take your lives outright, but Mystery Turkey, the Sojourn rips right back.
Overclocked, unlike my CPU, they can handle it. Able to get a couple of huge picks after Zeke went down. You got to be able to trust in the process. That is the Cleveland Storm. Big works happening for Mystery Turkey, and it's no mystery what's going to happen. You got to get to site. You got 20 seconds to go. Final team fighting, possibly going to turn this into a 2-0. It's a 9 to 5, but they're not putting in any overtime. They're simply getting the job done here in these first 4 minutes. Orbital, you got to find this last fight, and it's going to be happening exactly where the Storm is lined up.
It is that moment. 15 minutes to close. You better have your way out the door. Zeke and Mystery Turkey find 2. Tron rips in with the hammer, swings it down on Sith's head, said, I am the original king, and I will not be denied my just dues. Tron with yet 2 more to close it out, and Cleveland Storm are 1 away from their grand finals crown.
That was tough. Eichenwald is not forgiving in the slightest when it comes to that direct choke point. Opener for, straight off of spawn from the attacking side. If you're not ready to execute, or if you simply can't land it, it is a tough one to get away from. Zeke, man, just chucking bombs like it's the early 2000s. Wow, just able to find so much extra pressure. Great job right now out of Cleveland High School, and they are 1 away from being the 2-time repeat champs going into this spring. And you know what? This is definitely a squad that has their eyes set on a big national in maybe just a couple months.
And I think when it comes to teams that have already locked their position in the play versus cup, you have to sit there and go, well, what do we want to show to the opponents that we'll see in the future? Because your eyes are not really looking here. And I hate saying that because this is a very important match, and you're looking at the side of Vimy Primal Valkyries, who are also fighting for a position at the play versus cup. Keep that in mind. Even if they drop here, even if they aren't able to turn it around, they still have an opportunity. We want to give them credit there, as they are either going to be first or second here in the spring 2025. But my eyes are always drawn and always thought of, you know, if you're an opponent diving in to this almost this next stage. How do you want to present yourself? And it feels like right now Cleveland Storm are just saying, we're presenting ourselves like we already won the PlayVS Cup. They're rocking and not stopping the show at all. They've been so powerful.
Yeah, very true. And you know what? They're going to be keeping a lot of that momentum because we have to go to Flashpoint. This is the middle portion of our best of 5. If you make it beyond this, I will be very impressed. They do pick the better one in terms of at least aesthetics between the two, because you have New Junk City, which is, I'm like, cool. I'm tired of Rust. Suravasa just looks great.
Sorry to all New Junk City lovers, but yeah, the aesthetic is not exactly up to par there.
It's just not, yeah. So this means that you have basically the sisterhood of the traveling pants, and you have to deal with a lot of movement. There's gonna be a lot of just, all right, how quickly can we gain control of this side? How now do we skirmish along these streets? And this is going to be, I think, a big testament as to how this team, especially for the Storm, is ready to kind of take on any kind of scrappiness. We've seen their ones, they're great. We've seen their combos, they're fantastic. Can they simply shut this one down and turn, I think, because Flashpoint is like a miniature best of 5 all its own, right? Can they 3-0 the BO5 inside the BO5?
That is a statement, and it is one of the things, one of the main differences here between Control and Flashpoint. For those that maybe are just tuning in for the first time, which we understand if you are, hey, welcome to PlayVS High School Championship. This is what it's all about. But when it comes to Flashpoint, one of the biggest changes is the fact that the points are captured a little bit faster, number 1. Number 2 is ultimate charge timers do carry over from Flashpoint to Flashpoint. That is the huge part. And a lot of teams where we actively watch, yes, they want to fight, but first touch is highly important. If you get first touch, generally it's only about 2 team fights before the point is captured. So either saving your ultimates towards the end of the Flashpoint and saying, hey, we just give it up, we can't contest, versus, well, we're going to expend everything because we don't have a choice. That's the main thing that I'm going to be brought in. So I love the fact that you talked about this teamwork, this macro-centric style. It is very important in Flashpoint, because if you expend an ult and your team wasn't ready, you just lost out, and that might have cost you the Flashpoint, the next Flashpoint in total.
That's very true. And sometimes, depending on where you decide to advance the line, especially on Suravasa, it may be one solid team fight that goes on for a lot longer. And if you immediately stagger that out, you then take that fight forward, and then you're done. Like that point is complete. You can move on. A couple times, depending on, you know, if it takes a while to kind of unlock it. Yeah, you have that kind of long form stagger of getting maybe 2, maybe 3. Very rare. But I've seen one and dones depending on who's able to get that first step. So we'll see how that happens going into our map number 3. Very crucial here for this Mountain Regional, because if it goes the way of the Cleveland Storm, this one will be theirs. They can claim another trophy and put some hardware beyond the glass. However, if this does go the way of the Primal Valkyries out of Vimy Ridge Academy, then we can continue this fight.
And that continuation will be up a steep cliff, though. Keep that in mind. It is not a hard hill to climb. It is a sheer cliff to try and get your foothold in. And that's what the Valkyries are here for. They say, look, we knew coming into this that Cleveland Storm are a powerful team, a squad that you cannot dance around. And this time, you got to face them head on, and we got some mixtures to work with. Ty Shark now back on that Mei, which I talked about. A little bit of a difference here. Makes a little bit more sense. A lot of tight corridors. You can section off a lot of Cleveland Storm. Here's the difference, though. There is going to be Zika bouncing their way through, looking for a little bit of invisibility, and trying to get a mix-up. Huge boost in another invisibility. You see multiple marks. And are now going to try and point it out. Who are you going to be able to hack, though? Are you going to get on the back end here? That is the question.
Sombra is a McNasty idea, especially working around that with Sojourn as well as a Junker Queen. They have gone Scrap City. You may not be in Junk City, but we have brought the Queen to Suravasa. That's going to be some early picks. They get rid of Killa Tech, who's able to get off of that invulnerability field, and they try to at least kind of dislodge them from that early site pickup. Some seconds burning right now, but it is Cleveland Storm that's cleaning up.
Honestly, I like the fact that Cleveland Storm, I mean, we knew they were strong, but the fact that they were willing to wait a little bit. They gave Vimy Valkyries actually the first turn, but that corralled a lot of the Valkyries into that tight space. And then Cleveland Storm were slowly chipping away at the backside. When you have a Tide Shark and Cannoneer that are kind of focused inside of the middle, you don't have many ways to bring the damage outside. So Cleveland Storm are able to wipe them out, stagger a few of the deaths, force them to wait a timer, and Cleveland Storm already up at about 40.
Tide Shark and Cannoneer, like Tide Shark is actually going to have a lot more value, I think, right now, but Cannoneer is hard pressed to make sure that they are not going to be focused completely out of their turret form, and they need to be able to lay so much of that extra damage down in distance from being able to get at least few of these Storm players away. I feel like they are facing a difficulty that is just much more mechanically biased and based in with Zeke and as well, but well, Tron falls, so they at least get one up, but Zeke is going to answer just immediately thereafter.
Yep, it was the fastest of turns out there. Very, very comfortable for Cleveland Storm. They allow these twists and turns to occur, but the recapture is good. And again, they're at 71, meaning Vimy Valkyries are going to sit there going, okay, I don't think we can really force it any longer. We're going to go ahead and give up this point side, maybe send in one to kind of shell out, see if they can do anything. But if anything, I would send Vimy Primal Valkyries out and about, have them try and focus on the next point, and see where this next flashpoint is going to spawn. It will be turn number 1. Cleveland Storm capture first.
This is a very agile composition that's come out right now for Cleveland. They know that they can move a lot more handedly and deal out and dole out the damage. Mystery Turkey gets rid of both Cannoneer as well as all caps, and that pretty much kind of sets the standard of quality that we're going to be getting for this next site situation. They can send them back to the locker room. You've got 5 ultimates online for Storm. They do have Tide Shark that gets one on Novicious, so there's a support, but everyone else otherwise has gone to the bench, and they're going to have to see this from Respawn.
Vimy Valkyries caught in rotation even. That's what hurts the most, right? You get attacked and everything does not go your way. That hurts. Vimy Primal Valkyries, you have to sit there and go, we kind of messed up. We were trying to rotate, we got caught, and 1 or 2 members were kind of erupt out. Kill Attack now getting that same treatment as they're hacked from the backside, and Cleveland Storm are ready to go hunting once again. Of course, it's Zeke that might be in a little bit of a rough spot, but getting some healing with the rest of the team is going to try and keep themselves safe. Vimy Valkyries, though, they lose Cannoneer immediately once again. In comes the Orbital Ray, but a triple hack instead. Cleveland Storm wipe that table as the Tron front runs with that hack as well. Vimy Valkyrie's gone.
That's Hammer of Dawn style right there. Oh, another one to the old dome. May go back to Antarctica and do some research on that shot. You'll have plenty of time to look at it as they are getting the rest of this point already over halfway for point number 2, and you have to make a decision if your Valkyries. Do you expend any extra resources? You're going to try and bring this fight to them. They are stuck at the corridor, already up to 70%, going invisible, and maybe a hack from the backside. They're going to get one down. Cannoneer falls, and so do the rest of the numbers for the Valkyries. Cleveland Storm will be 1 point off from getting this spring championship in about 10% more.
They are happy about how they are playing this one. Cleveland Storm have been clean throughout the entire series. They heard us, Hail Monkey Man. They heard us asking, you know, are they ready? Is this squad that has been undefeated, are they going to let up off the gas? It seems that they are all foot to the floor. Cleveland Storm lose Novicious, but it's only 1 at the moment. 20 seconds left. Plenty of time to get back with the rest of the team.
This is going to be a big moment too. The next point, I mean, it's you have to reverse sweep into this, not just the series, but this flashpoint in the midst of it all from this high ground position. Now you're just getting clocked and rocked, and this is just going to be a stock of bodies dropping to the floor as they continue to bring this fight. You have Novicious, who has been just such a clean support, now throwing out the daggers and dimes, and Octane, they get all of 1 as a consolation prize.
That consolation prize might not be enough, but Vimy Primal Valkyries, just like in map number 2, they're now stuck with about 4 ultimates. All caps about 33% off, 36. It's doable. If you're able to get this last one, maybe you have the gates open and you can make a rush for it. But Vimy Valkyries have to realize this is their last hope. They better be willing to force out Octane, taking a little bit low though, and I'm not sure you liking that. Nice little wall goes up as Tide Shark tries to zone them all off, but in comes the orbital away from Cool Dude. And you try and push forward, but you're losing members on the backside. Octane melted as the rest of the team couldn't collapse in. Zeke with 3 on the back. Make it 4. Make it 1 more if you can find all caps. That was Zeke with the flank of a lifetime, as that is almost a team wipe. Cleveland Storm deny Vimy Valkyries.
Still got 30 seconds, or rather 30% to go. That's about 15 seconds, and they've got to make this one happen. But it's just getting down on the street. Zeke has been a masterclass witness to what just needs to happen off of flank positioning. They do it on a Sombra, they do it on a Pharah, and they do it for their squad. Cleveland Storm, they drop one map all spring. They drop one map in 2 semesters across this academic year. They will not just be your fall, but also your spring Mountain Regional Overwatch 2 champions.
Comfortable is all we can really talk about there. There was not a moment where Cleveland Storm felt like they were out of control. This was controlled. This was a controlled typhoon. The tornado went an exact path through this entire series. And you have to give credit where credit is due. Cleveland Storm came to play. Never in doubt, at least on their end.
Very much so. Zeke was a tornado, and unfortunately, Vimy or Ridge Academy was the trailer park. Tossing bodies, tossing everyone as far as the eye could see. Shout out though over to the Primal Valkyries. They did find a lot of people in their way on the road through this big bracket, and considering that we do have the same champion across both the fall and the spring semesters, they have a chance to be picked as the runner-up from this region to be able to make it into the cup. So there is the possibility, even though that it was won twice. But you know, the big love obviously goes over to VSU Cleveland High School as the storm. I mean, it was not just a storm brewing, it was roaring for the entirety of these playoffs.
And they made it so exciting. It might as well have been the Geostorm of the ages. We are so happy to go ahead and crown this squad. They went ahead, Cleveland Storm, making it happen 3-0 undefeated here in the PlayVS Mountain Regional Finals playoffs for Overwatch 2. With that, we are done here on the day. Shout out to PlayVS once again. My name is Orbital. With me is Hail Monkey Man. Thank you so much for tuning in.